Hey guys, this is Solution Podfic. Today we're going to be reading the one where the Justice League almost didn't figure it out by Pets and the Birds. This is Chapter 5. Hal had been off-world for a while. He expected a few things upon his return. A warm welcome from the League, a nice cup of coffee, a few days break from all this hero stuff if he was lucky. He did not expect the Flash to turn up to him the moment he got into the watchtower, grab his shoulders, and suddenly start rambling at super speed. There's a completely new human League member at the human speed berry. Flash stopped, took a deep breath, then started again. There's a new completely human League member, and he beat Batman in a fight, vaguely got away with fighting crime in Gotham, and may or may not steal Batman's gadgets on a regular basis. Hal stared back at Barry, blinking dumbly for a few seconds. Fuck. Yeah, Flash agreed, nodding at super speed and shaking Hal's shoulders. It's terrifying, and the worst part is, he's not even a scary person. He's nice, and he tells jokes, and he's my nephew's best friend, and I am so confused. Hal opened his mouth to respond, but got cut off by hysterical laughter coming from the other side of the room. He looked up to find the younger Flash leaning against the wall, and his cowl pulled down, nearly doubled over from laughing so hard. Oh, I'm having such a good time with this, Wally cackled, wiping his eyes. Remember, Uncle Barry, you're the one who nominated him, and it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. Barry cursed under his breath. Tell me more about him, please. Wally made a zipping motion over his mouth. Not a chance. If you haven't cracked it yet, I still hope. Superman wants you guys in the meeting room, by the way. With that, he turned and zipped out of the room, his laughter trailing off down the hallway. Barry hung his head. I'm in hell. Come on, Barry, let's go to the meeting room, Hal said, patting Barry's shoulder and staring him after his nephew. Only a handful of people were actually in the meeting room when they got there. Batman and Superman stood near the monitors in front of the room, obviously scouring over information, while Green Arrow and Black Canary looked over paper maps and plans at the table. The younger Flash had joined someone dressed in a black and blue suit that Hal had never seen before, tapping away at a holo screen. Hal had to assume that this was the new recruit Barry was talking about, but at first glance, he didn't look like much. Young, not armored, slim. Hal had been picturing someone a bit more imposing, though he thought that if he saw this kid take Batman out, he'd be more scared than if it was someone more imposing. Superman noticed them as soon as they walked in and nodded to Hal. Welcome back, Green Lantern. Glad to be back. He turned his attention to the new recruit and held out a hand to shake. Hi, I don't think we've met yet. The young man didn't even glance up from whatever information he was looking through. Hi, Nightwing. Sorry for the lack of niceties. Busy. Hal awkwardly lowered his hand. So, I'm guessing there's an issue? Superman nodded gravely, sighing as he turned back to his monitors. Big issue. Care to elaborate? Hal jumped when it was Nightwing that answered from beside him, still lost in his research. Gotham problem leaked out of Gotham, and that sucks for everyone involved. Jonathan Crane, Batman said gruffly. Hal mentally ran through Batman's rogue gallery until he landed on Scarecrow? Is he in jail? Yes, Batman huffed, also not looking away from his research to speak. But someone's gotten their hands on his fear toxin. A modified version of it, anyway. Nightwing continued, standing up with his holoscreen and headed to the front of the room. He plugged what he was working on into the monitors that Batman and Superman were at, and a bunch of maps that Hal couldn't begin to decipher appeared on the screen. I found a group of thugs with the toxin in Bludhaven a few weeks ago. Weird, but I didn't think much of it. Shit jumps the rubber from Gotham all the time. Me included, I suppose. Nightwing chuckled slightly, but Hal didn't get the joke. Anyway, long story short, it wasn't an isolated incident. Someone's supplying criminals with fear toxin, and not only in Bludhaven. There have been incidents from coast to coast. I've been tracking them, and it's officially reached danger status. Especially because these incidents have just been tests, Batman interrupted gravely. Something bigger is coming. It seems I'm not getting those days off from the hero thing, Hal thought, sighing. Hal almost would have let his guard down about the new kid, if not for the fact it was incredibly obvious that Superman was keeping an intense eye on him. He seemed harmless, all things considered, despite what Barry had said about him. Quick to laugh and quick to joke, but still laser-focused on the task at hand. And yet, Superman watched him, closely, tensing if he ever got too close to Batman. That alone was enough to put Hal on high alert, even as he tried to focus on stringing together the information presented to him. Currently, Nightwing and Wally had their heads bent over the same dataset, discussing possibilities of an antidote for this stranded toxin from samples Nightwing had collected. Considering Batman was on the other side of the room, Hal finally managed to turn his attention to what he was supposed to be looking at. Hey guys, Hal called out, his eyes narrowing on the maps he'd been given to study. That spot in New Mexico, where there's a concentration of incidents? There's a decommissioned military base at the center of it. Batman grunted vaguely in acknowledgement. Nightwing, start. Already on it, B. Nightwing interrupted, quickly switching over to the holoscreen gadget he'd been working on earlier, typing away furiously at the interface. Got it. Closed down in 1993, yada yada. Oh fuck. There's a ton of classified information here, that's never good. His eyebrows knit together, and he redoubled the speed on whatever he was inputting. Looks like they tested weapons. How much you want to bet that the army left a bunch of their old shit sitting around when they packed up and left? Highly likely, Batman sighed. Wally, start trying to hack into the classified files. Hal, help him. Barry, start working on the Nightwing and Batman ordered at the exact same time, causing them both to stop in the middle. Nightwing physically jumped up and whirled around on Batman. No, gross, ew! The day I start talking like you is the day that I beg Wally to vibrate his hand through my chest and stop my heart. You already talk like him sometimes, Wally noted, already typing possible passcodes into a computer at super speed, digging through the classified files that Nightwing brought up. Walls, this is the utmost betrayal of many years of friendship. I'm never forgiving you. Nightwing slumped back in his chair, pulling his screen up again, while Wally chuckled. As I was saying, Barry, please start working on the antidote. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Batman just huffed and turned back to his work. As soon as his back was turned, Nightwing stuck out his tongue at him like a young child. I did see that, Nightwing, Batman muttered. Yeah, and what are you gonna do? Ground me? Superman cleared his throat and actively moved to hover between the two of them. Perhaps we should get back to work. Nightwing, Wally, and Batman all continued on with their tasks, while Hal scanned the faces of the others in the room to make sure they were in the same speechless state he was. Even Hal wouldn't have tried to get away with that. And he took pride in occasionally trying to piss off the Bat. Nightwing did it with no fear, and Hal thought that might be the fastest the new League member had ever earned his respect. He didn't know what the fuck was up with Nightwing, but he knew that he wanted to see more of it. They disbanded for the day after another hour. Hal caught up with Nightwing in the corridor, clamping his hand on his shoulder as he came up beside him. Gotta give it to you, kid. You're gutsy, Hal laughed. Nightwing raised an eyebrow at him. I'm not really a kid. Then again, I think you're as old as my father. Come on, there's no way I'm more than 10 years older than you. Nightwing shrugged. I was adopted. Hal pushed Nightwing's shoulder lightly, laughing. Right, sure. So, kid, what do you have against old bats anyways? Oh, so many things, Nightwing chuckled. But nothing major right now. Why? Because it takes some serious guts to mess with him. I figured you must have a vendetta or something. I guess it's less scary when you grow up around him. Gothamite? The corners of Nightwing's mouth perked up strangely as if he were holding back a laugh. Yeah, something like that. You guys are a different species, I swear, Hal laughed, patting Nightwing on the shoulder. I've never met someone from Gotham that wasn't at least a little bit of a freak. I think it's what happens when we only get 3 days of sunlight a year. I also think there might be something in our water, but we've never been able to confirm that. I like you, kid. Glad you're on the team. Batman, as he often was digging through files on the Bat computer when Dick finally made his way back to the cave. Dick came up behind him, looking over his shoulder at the continued information from the day's meeting that he was scanning through. After a few seconds of silence, Dick said, Hey, B. Bruce grunted in acknowledgement, his eyes still focused on his research. Do you think we should tell the League that you raised and trained me? Bruce's fingers paused on the keyboard and he slowly turned to face Dick. Do they not know? Dick laughed so hard he doubled over, clutching his sides. No. You've worked with most of them since I was a literal child, and they have no fucking clue that I exist. I wonder whose fault is that, Mr. I Work Alone? Now I've earned Hal's respect because he thinks I hate you. I think Clark is worried for my sanity and physical well-being, and Wally told me that Barry might be on the verge of a mental breakdown. If Barry hasn't cracked it yet, then the rest of them have no chance. Bart ate Denny here last night. Exactly, that's what I said. Bruce sighed and turned back to his work. Leave them be. If they don't figure it out, it's their fault. Alright guys, and that is the end of chapter 5 of the one where the Justice League almost didn't figure it out by Bats and the Birds. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you next chapter.